Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings here. Yeah. Vague. Who knows? Well, somebody does know. What the hell is that still doing? Anyway, should fix that before I started. Are you here? Sorry. Okay, pay attention. Try to anyway. Alright, so, the video I was going to make, The Modern Mystic, just sort of made it, but he always says things in ways I'd never say them, and so you can't tell it's really the same video. So I don't know if I'll play any of it. You can just sort of see it's Mambo number 9. He'll probably delete it sometime in the future, because he does that. I don't know, very interesting in terms of you get to see his little the way he lives. I never thought of him as much of a hippie as he seems to be. From that generation and all. My generation, same generation. But yes, it's nice. Anyway, all right. So to the point. So I was thinking of making this video, and I was thinking about how to make it. How do you make these analogies? And I thought of the fact that, what I'm basically saying is, look, we're robots. That's sort of can be proven. And the interesting circumstances. See, I've used this robot word, and I've used this idea that we're reading a script. And the interesting thing is, right, is that as we're reading the script, we can say, this is a shitty script. We can realize, oh, this movie's going to suck. I better change the script. But changing the script is going to be exactly like the script. I mean, it's actually the script. It's in the script, changing the script. We can't say anything out of the script. And so in the script, we're actually saying, as it's occurring to us, that the script sucks. That's the script. Saying, hey, this script sucks is part of the script. And so we can't do anything there's no out of the boundaries of the recipe, the ingredients. The next moment will be a consequence of the previous moment, and you can demonstrate this all over the place by just shooting a gun or cannon or crashing a car or anything. I mean, just about dropping a cup. I mean, you can sort of prove that there's no way to stop the shit from happening. It's going to happen. The shit happens. This video happens. Everything happens. And so in that sense, I agree with the mystic. That sort of sounds like a word he would use, a phrase, a happening. It's just happening. It's just the stream flowing. But again, the point is that it's weird. It has this weird component where it's happening in the context of it has to be filtered through the complexity. This robot will not read bad script, by its standards, and that's just a fact. So it's going to have to be molded to the rocks that are in the stream. The rocks in the stream is going to the stream flows different with the rocks or without the rocks. Alright, so the way I was thinking about it I thought of the movie AI, where this little kid robot, is possessed by this notion that mommy will make everything alright. He needs his mommy, blah, 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 blah. And, but he's also, being exposed to a world, and the world's kind of telling him you're a robot, sort of. I mean, they don't emphasize that part enough. That was the failure of the movie, I suppose. But the other robots are certainly aware of the fact that they've been programmed for a function, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, they don't exploit that concept. Well, what does a bunch of robots do when they figure out they're robots? And they're just, gurgitating a program, but the program has these nuances into it where they can, in fact, contemplate their programming. They can evaluate it. They can judge it, and make decisions about it and change things in the sense that that standard will be their standard. They can change the motivational mechanism. They can turn it on and off, so to speak, in a way. They can modify it to an extent. They can't change. You can't change that you get hungry every day. You can certainly change what you eat. That kind of thing. So we have some power to play with this mechanism to reprogram it. So I guess that's the key point, is to say that it will turn out the way it's going to turn out. There's no changing the fact, again, like the script, that the script is recording everything, and it says what I'm going to say before I'm going to say it. It's already determined how the car will explode when it hits the wall and all that kind of stuff. Can't change any of that. But part of the process is us actually interacting. And that'll decide which way it goes, in the sense that what the future will be, okay, is sort of dictated by how we have that interaction, by how compelling these videos that people like the Mystic make. Whether people grok it, the robots, and then they say, whoa, hit the pause button, slow down, I got to talk about this, I got to figure out what the right answer is, because it's more complicated than I thought. It's not just about me, getting what I want. I live in a much more complicated context, and there's kind of important decisions to be made about making more of these robots. It's sort of like if you were it did occur to me to make another different analogy to the status people were in the past, and the fact that they would have children, even they were living in a class system or a slavery even, and they would have their children, they would born them into slavery. Now, a lot of those people didn't have a whole bunch of choice about this stuff. They couldn't just wear a condom. It wasn't as simple to prevent this horror from happening. So, there is some lesser blame, but you almost see people doing it today so recklessly that you'd have to say, oh, that didn't have anything to do with it. They're just assholes. Assholes, or bad programming leads to bad behavior. Thoughtless, reckless, and we're dangerous when we're not being run by a decent program. You have to have this decency thing running inside of you, or you're a dangerous machine. As many people have proven to us by doing horrible and awful things to people. Others trying to get by. They've broken a lot of robots that way, damaged them badly. So then the other sub-subject, in the Mystics video, he was making an analogy to the French Revolution and religion, the idea that we have to be happy by percentages, that the lottery system of, say, capitalism isn't a very brilliant idea, and it might be smarter to have some devotion to society. Now, I thought of insects and ants, and the complexity of this role playing. The bee or the ant, the drone bee and the ant are in the position without any awareness of the position, because they're living two lives. They certainly, as individuals, have developed senses and capacity to be sensitive to things that'll hurt them individually. No doubt about that. But they also have this underlying program that forces them to do things that are just crazy. As an individual, they're going to lose. They'll walk into fire, literally, for the society. So the society programming, even though they're not doing it for the society, they're just doing it because they feel it. But the fact is, those feelings exist, where they essentially feel the colony's pain. And they feel the colony's pain in the sense that they will feel bad if they miss an opportunity to be fodder, to jump on a grenade. They're horny for it. There's a piece of them that is the programming is completely devoted to some role you play where you go run right into the Nazi line, that's got its tiger tanks, and you just run right into it, even though probably every personal interest alarm is going off. There's some bigger alarm that goes off that says serve the doesn't, like, again, it doesn't say serve the colony. It's just saying serve yourself by because you're really horny to get blown up for the tribe or whatever. Now, humans even have some of that, right? This whole ego, macho, blah, blah, blah bullshit has probably gotten a lot of men killed just because, they turn it into some sort of competition. Now, they're not doing it in the truly honest way. It's kind of a dishonest way to get them to be servants to the colony. But the end result is the same, is they do something preposterously stupid in terms of their own self-interest, just to prove a point, just to say I'm tougher than you, some sort of little ego bullshit. And that only exists in their ego is because tribes need strong leadership. They need generals who are willing to be the, true leader, and be the one who's, risking taking the bullet first and all that kind of crap. So there's lots of this bizarre, I'd say bizarre just because it is a tenuous duality of some kind, to use language. It is the essence of the getting to it, is recognizing what exactly have you been manipulated by and for what function. And so we can go through all of our social instincts versus our biological, personal instincts, and you can see them in there. This idea that we're social animals, we have all kinds of restraints and inhibitions, fears of embarrassment or fears of failures and different things, and that obviously exists only for its social benefit. The whole hierarchy thing, the whole alpha, beta, all of these little mechanisms are to manipulate organisms that have to live with each other in some form or another. And they're just pieces of management. They're little control mechanisms. It's just part of being a robot. Alright, so so the real subject I want to get to is it's almost worth making as a movie. Maybe I should just make the movie one-man show or something. What would the conversation be like? I mean, how do you, because it's alright, you're robots. You're literally find out that we have been made, okay, that we were constructed by some, whatever, dark lord of the universe, and we are in fact robots. He can show us the blueprint, the DNA plan, the whole thing. This is exactly what he intended, that we come out like this, that we're, that this is our destiny to be these robots, and we weren't supposed to figure it out. We were supposed to stay, somewhere in the plan, maybe we weren't supposed to get language or something, or maybe something wasn't supposed to happen and it did happen. And so now we're stuck in this position of knowing, well, yes, I am an American, I speak English, I have some really sloppy habits because of that. I was raised by civilized people with sort of civilized ethics, and I have some notion of decency and honor and all that bullshit and blah, 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 and I'm motivated by certain things. And, as soon as you say motivated by certain things, you just... Well, really, not really. I mean, I want to fuck stuff, but, what else do I really want to do? I really want to... See, he seems interested in doing lots of things. I don't really want to sit there and mount a speaker on a wall. I mean, it seems like a lot of trouble. Can I just tie it to something? So I just tie it to something. But anyway. So that's me, that's my programming, this robot doesn't has a hard time with the motivational thing. Has to really struggle to give a shit about anything. Um, you know, um, and does everything out of some sense of guilt, I guess, and responsibility. I can't say I don't love anything, but frankly, uh, it's just it's sort of crude. It's a crude kind of love. It's just what isn't what I'd like it to be. But then you'd say, what is liking it to be? It's always made out of some sort of mush. Well, anyway, so it's a little tricky writing the script because you're going to have these robots with these different personalities. Okay, we're all just sitting here and we're going to say, okay, we're going to concede we're robots. Now, what the hell do we do about this? Is there any underlying function? Okay, that'll be the main question to be answered. Is this worth perpetuating? I mean, is it worth making more robots? I mean, this is kind of a stupid role we're playing, right? I mean, and clearly we're not doing it very efficiently. So one of the first subjects that might come up somewhere in there is this: how do we socially organize our little Borg of robotness? I mean, how do we make roboting work efficiently for all the robots, get the most robots that don't get pieces ripped off of them and don't have disaster happen and messes. And then we have to have this, we are robots, but we're robots that you can reward and punish. We do modify our behavior based on what we think we can gain, if we can win, and you can make it clear that you can't win doing certain things and crime won't pay and this and that. And so we can steer behavior of the robots. We can motivate each other just by making each other less nervous, less scared of each other. We could ease each other's pain to some extent, do different things to make it possible for us to cooperate and to get along, and understand that we have to do certain things to make it possible. That like we shouldn't have a lottery economy. That you don't inherit it, you have to earn it. This kind of crap. If you are going to be making robots, it's silly to make poor robots and rich robots. It's a bad idea. No, you're not going to gain anything from that kind of nonsense. Certainly, the defective robots, you got to feel bad for them, but you can't spend all your resources, because every third day they decide they're some different sex, and you got to tie a bunch of, sew a different penis on different places, or do all kinds of weird shit. Can't have it all, you can't be too fucked up, just practical. So the society's got to cut some heads off, it's got to do some stuff to, make the thing work, blah, 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 and you have to invest in some rational plan, not an irrational plan. Like I said, the plan has to sort of do this reward good behavior, punish bad behavior kind of thing, and you don't get that in an inheritance economy. Blah blah blah, and certainly one that's just playing. I don't want to get into an economic video because I've been there and done that, and no one pays any attention. But the whole stock market thing is a fraud. I mean, it will crash eventually. The whole thing's going to fall because it's a bubble. It's made out of nothing. There's no real money there. They're just keep investing their sort of fake borrowed money to inflate the value of their borrowed money. So they just keep inflating the value of bad money, and it just doesn't. If it ever had to be cashed out, it can't be cashed out because it's promises on things that can't exist, like the labor of somebody 500 years from now. You just can't cash that out now. But anyway, don't want to get into that subject. Sort of getting to it in the sense that yes, I would argue that once the robots start this conversation about being robots, it would be rational to decide to do something more like the French Revolution than the American Revolution as a starting point. But obviously you have to make it so it doesn't just fall back into the same errors of the past. They got to fix the the entitlement thing, okay, where and entitlement always sounds like you're talking about those stupid poor people. No, the entitlement of the rich, to say their robots are special. The rich born robots are special. That's just bullshit. So anyway, yeah. Well, maybe I'll take a break. Then I'll come back. Probably. Alright, back. I think computer's acting a bit buggy, but whatever. We'll risk it. Alright, so I'm trying to imagine this conversation between the robots. And part of the problem would be is that some of the robots are just going to be really stupid, right? And they're just going to keep going, well, God says, or something like that. And you're just like, forget it. You can't even have the conversation. So yeah, forget it. Until you figure out there's no God, you really can't have a rational conversation about your place in the universe. It just can't happen. So anyway, in the illogic of the whole God thing, in the context of this world, that there's no miracles. There's no, people don't grow new arms. It doesn't happen. There's no other mechanism at play here but us. We decide the fate of the future by being aware that there is a future that we're deciding. I mean, that's the key component. The first step is recognizing that you're causing it. That's the first step. And then you can try to do something to stop you from causing it. Change how your rock forks the stream. And if we want the stream to go some other way, more than one rock is going to have to line up and oblige the stream to move, the script writing. It won't change without us changing, I guess you could say, right? The script's not going to change until we change. If we're going to read a different script, we have to read it with a different mind, so to speak. We have to be different people to read different scripts. We have to, so anyway, so that's the utility of the conversation is the rocks will never line up to do anything constructive if they don't talk to each other. So you can look at it that way. If we're going to organize, because then when you need, or if we want the stream to change requires the rocks organizing. The individual rock saying it, me or the mystic, is of little value until the rest of the rocks play along and say, yeah, I get that. We have to do, we're going to change things. We're going to have to change them collectively. And that just requires us to understand by not changing them, we're acting. Okay, not doing something is the same as doing something. Hold on a second. Yeah, okay, I'm back again. Probably. I have to check just to be sure. Alright, seems that way. Seems to be working okay. Alright, so anyway, so now it just occurred to me, it always turns it into some sort of whatever sex story. But anyway, so I was thinking, like, the robots are having this conversation and about how do we divvy up this thing called gratification, and which ones of our gratifications are worth anything and all that kind of stuff. And you could, they could just have this conversation about, well, they all want to fuck the pretty girls, and and there's not enough pretty girls to go around. Just this whole idea of then coming up with some way, well, could we share, and should she have a choice in the matter, and just all these kind of conversations about who gets what. And again, in the context of the bigger question is there anything productive at all in playing this stupid robot game? I mean, would we do it on purpose? Would we do what the Dark Lord did, okay, in terms of inventing this bad idea of making these little feeling things and putting in this dog eat dog arena for spectacle? It's almost like dog fighting. What kind of brain thinks it's a great idea to force animals to interact in such a nasty and unpleasant way for their fun? Okay, I mean, everyone? Okay, everyone except the people doing that should be able to say, man, that's dumb as fuck. You don't do that. You don't force carnage and war for your entertainment. That's disgustingly stupid. It's so selfish, and just so selfish, but it's so like sick in that fucking head. Would they do that with their own kids? No, I don't think so. Let me throw my kids into a little box and force them to rip each other's arms off. I mean, it wouldn't occur to them that that's a good idea. So why the fuck are they doing it? Except no good reason, except they're really, 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 really stupid. And so that's going to be one of the first decisions the robots have to make. And the Mystic sort of got to that in the sense he was, but he goes on these tangents that are just silly. Like people do, this prediction that people have some sort of, they have to be religious, or they'll have to gravitate to the wrong answer somehow. And to, somehow the nastier, somehow the smart people won't be smart enough to figure out one day that they have to basically kill the dumb people before the dumb people kill them. That it might actually occur to them the other way around. The smart people might actually figure out ahead before the dumb people that the dumb people are a freaking threat. That they're not going to allow for a civil society because of some moronic protest, some Tea Party superficial whatever, Trumpy kind of people. Too stupid. Just too fucking stupid. Just admit it. Okay, you hate Mexicans. Just admit you hate Mexicans, and you want a candidate to vote for that hates Mexicans. But don't pretend Donald Trump is any kind of anything but an asshole. And the only reason why you want him to be president is so he will kill some Mexicans. Just admit it. I mean, don't pretend that, no, he's really a great man. I mean, it's just so bad. That they just keep pretending he's some sort of smart person or some sort of capable person or he's some kind of anything person. That he's even on their side when he isn't. It's just so ironic. I mean, it's so ironic. But yeah, so there's no big deal. It's okay. You can hate Mexicans. You can hate Muslims. It's okay with me. I don't have anything against you doing that. All right? Because, I don't like them much either. I really don't have anything against Mexicans, obviously. It's okay to be from Mexico. I just have a lot against people who think they're entitled to have 25 kids. I don't think that's fucking makes any sense at all. So I think those people need to be stopped. But otherwise, I don't give a shit. And Muslim, it's not really, I don't care about you being Arab or something. But wearing your religion on your sleeve is really stupid. And not respecting our freedom. I mean, that's really dumb. You gotta, that's really stupid. It's really not it's the freedom to live without being a Muslim. You don't respect my right not to be a fucking Muslim and not to love Allah. I don't have to do that, asshole. I don't have to give him any respect at all. It's your figment of your fucking imagination, you fucking idiot. And anyway, you can go into the reasons why there's legitimate reasons to be very afraid of immigrants, because some of them are batshit insane in terms of either their lack of ability to figure out society doesn't can't afford to educate 25 retarded children of yours that you can't manage, or the other side who society has no reason to respect people who don't respect it. But anyway, don't get into the politics. I just did, but I don't want to. That just triggers the robots. It just triggers the little robotic reaction, blah, 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 blah. Call me. You can't have a civil, reasonable conversation with these robots yet. Because they don't know they're robots. They don't know they're just reflexively reacting to things out of these stupid impulses. And just won't even admit that. So first you got to get them to be a little bit honest about their own bullshit and why they want things to change. And it usually has to do with superficial reasons, because people aren't following the dress code. It doesn't look right. We have blue things on that side, and then we have these stupid purple things. Oh, they're just not right. I mean, it's usually some bullshit reason, and they've decided they're going to make it into some sort of rational reason that, when it's just an irrational reaction. They can't defend it logically. It's just their personal subjective sensibilities. And it's like living, right? Like most people apparently don't mind living in these little tiny boxes crammed up next to each other. Apparently, it doesn't bug them that much. Bugs the fuck out of me, okay, but it doesn't apparently bug the average person as much. So I'm sort of asking for a little special dispensation because I can't handle it. Yeah, I'm obviously the aberrant. We can't do this social order thing and say everybody's little particular problems are going to be solved, because that ain't going to happen. And in the long run, it's more efficient for the inefficient to be not accommodated, and that's just the truth. So anyway. So I'm just saying, if I'm going to argue against something, am I arguing because I have a problem, or am I arguing because I think the society will have a problem? And a lot of times people are just arguing out of their personal problem with something, not the fact that they can really demonstrate that humankind will be better off, that kind of horseshit. And this is the real problem with robots, is because they do have all this programming that keeps telling them that clashes, that doesn't, that's so wrong, Ernest Borgnine in a tutu. No, it's so wrong. It's wrong. Don't do that. When, no, it could be perfectly right. It's just a matter of taste. But anyway, I don't want to get off on that tangent either. So I'm just saying, it's an interesting position we are in as human beings, to sit here and be able to recognize not only that we're animals, but that animals are just robots. They really are. You can just see it in their function. Their function can be duplicated by a little bit of computer software. Roof. You can just make a little mechanical one that does, purring kitty, cough up a hairball. The routine isn't that complicated. It can be mimicked, and certainly we can be likewise mimicked in some form or another. Most aspects of our existence. Make it hungry, make it horny. It's not that complicated. You give us these little obligations of our biology, to maintain our biology, and a few of these sense things where it's too hot, it's too cold, and that seems to be all we're preoccupied with, is this controlling our little comfort zone, and how much of a mess we make, and how much we, fix our bed before we sleep in it, and all that kind of crap. And it's just routines. And so yeah, once you acknowledge that, then it's just about how to manage roboting. And again, the ultimate, I think, conclusion is, because the robots don't have eternal life, and because they are subject to all kinds of deformity, disease, disability, bad aging, and they are addicts, essentially. They're just addicted to doing the same thing over and over, and they'll just keep clinging to have the opportunity to eat one more banana split or something, or whatever, ice cream cone, one more potato chip. They'll keep clinging to this. Tomorrow will be a better day, even though they have no prospects that that's going to necessarily be true. They've had the past moments, and the past moments keep telling them there can be future moments, and so they just keep chasing the hope that they'll achieve this nirvana thingy, and in this little tiny form of just a good hour or a good day. But it's just chasing. And so then that's part of what this conversation between the robots would be. This word addiction would come up, and then this whole idea of this mechanism of reward and punishment that we've been built into us, the fact that we are capable of feeling good, and then some robot will probably point out that, well, it's sort of the whip analogy, right? I mean, I don't need to create carrots. I don't need positives if I have the negative first. Because once I have the negative, all I have to do is stop the negative, and you'll think it's a positive. You know, that's the truth, and it's sort of how the universe works. You know, it's all just a release of pressure, you could argue. You know, so you create the pressure, then you can create the illusion of an expansion by just eliminating the pressure that you imposed. And essentially, we're just driven by finding relief of the tension and burden, the straw carrying the weight of existence. So that's kind of even more of a dismal portrayal of, you know, this image of what we are, the true portrait versus the Dorian Gray portrait, you know, the real one versus the fake one, the fake life, and just see ourselves for just how badly constructed we are, and how doomed to failure making such monsters is. Again, alligators would probably defend the existence of alligators. You know, they'd say, oh, we're really cool, we can go 6 months without a meal, we can do this, we can do that, you know. But yeah, you stink. You know, there's lots of downsides. You know, but you know, humans are just doing that. They're just saying it, you know, because I'm familiar with this and I know what this form of robot is. This is the coolest robot. And, you know, they have no idea, because they haven't been anything else, and they haven't tried anything else. So they just don't know even how much they're failing because they've never been in a real contest. It's like winning the Special Olympics, and then all of a sudden they fix whatever retarded you, so you're not a retard anymore, and you realize, holy shit, I was embarrassingly bad at that. Embarrassingly bad, you know. Phew. You know, it could happen, and that's sort of where I'm arguing that's the position we're in, is you know, just realizing just how badly designed we are, how poor our function is, how little comfort we actually gain through all of this work and effort and struggle, that all adds up to just shit. Bad idea, don't make any more would be the obvious, simple solution. So this is where the mystic totally fails, is he doesn't even recognize that as a possibility. Even though our reproduction is just based on this sexual impulse, there is no innate reproduction desire. I mean, I don't buy it. People can say it, but I just don't buy it. There's only a desire to do the things that are a consequence. You might argue that women have some cuddle desire or something, or some, you know, and they certainly have a fondness, whatever, a defensiveness of children, you could argue, some sort of impulse like that. But clearly, there's tons and tons of women who never have kids, and they don't, you know, walk around saying, I don't know what to do with myself. So it's just sort of a bullshit argument. And certainly, for males, I don't see where you would derive any such thing, except in some sort of weird way, like, again, like I don't know, you have a micro penis and you're trying to cover it up by making a bunch of kids, like somehow I couldn't make kids if I had a micro penis, right? I mean, no, that doesn't make any sense. So they all know that kind of sounds like shit too. I don't know what it is, you know. I can't, you know, it's almost like I can't talk to those robots that have that, whatever it is, this kids make sense thing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There's just not a single program inside of me that says that kids make sense. I don't get it. And you can see that it's another example of the Trump example. I mean, you know, he's that far from fucking his own kids. So who knows what the truth is, you know. But he certainly doesn't, you know, there's no evidence of any purpose besides pleasing the bitch or whatever. Giving her something to do, keep her out of his way. But anyway, and well, whatever. I won't even go into the psychotic. Breeding psychotics will produce psychotics, which isn't a great idea. But anyway, all right. So I'm gonna take another break and think about it. But yeah, so I mean, it's something to worth orchestrating is the script, for this conversation, and maybe some way of like all at once you're captured by the aliens, and then you're thrown into a room with 20 other of these robots, and now you've been told the truth that you're just robots. You really are just deliberately. You're still biological, but the biology has been completely manipulated for this purpose, and that there's nothing you're doing it's at all original or at all, whatever the right word would be. Yes, you're sort of unique, but like snowflakes. This doesn't mean much. Let's see how else to say it. Yeah, I mean, it'd be even better if we could prove we were robots by just pulling the mechanics out, like a Terminator. Just pull out the metal stuff and say, see, you can see it. But the Terminator's a nice example, this idea of what do you do with this education you're getting? I'm a robot. I'm designed to be a killing machine. Should I just do whatever anybody tells me? I mean, even though I'm programmed to do that, wouldn't I, by understanding, know that fuck that, that's stupid? So, and can't we step beyond our primitive programming? So our programming isn't even that rigid, right? I mean, it's just food and sex, and the stuff that's wrapped around those things. You would say, having a roof over your head and all that kind of stuff requires a whole investment in a social structure, manipulate people, make the right friends, get connections, playing all these games. But that's all we really are, is after these little simple things. Underneath it all, the real motivating thing is this striving to be a winner. And some people do it by educating themselves, and some people do it by buying lottery tickets. Anyway, yeah, I'll be back, probably. I suppose we could play some of this. What the hell? It's a random place in the video, and he was mimicking himself, and then he stopped doing it. He took his blood pressure and stopped doing that, so I don't know. There's some theater to all of what he does. There's some theater in here, some subtle message, which I don't entirely understand. Again, this is all stuff that we can see it, and we can report to on each other what we're seeing, and that is part of what reading the script is. But it's overtly interesting to recognize, so depending on what I say, certain things will happen. And I can't change what I'm going to say, but what I'm saying is being filtered by the knowledge that I know I'm saying it and it's important. So, it's sort of, just can't get around the fact that that's an interesting feature of this, is that this idea of communicating, just that notion, just the idea, like I said, once you know you're functioning so robotically, it does change you. I mean, it changes everything you do. Now you scrutinize everything and you think about it a lot more. So it's just a fact that you're going to do that, because the plan doesn't seem to be written in any hard sense. Even though it doesn't seem to be, because you're going through this process of evaluating the very thing that's controlling you, and that does have a consequence in the end. And in the end, it'll mean that the stones line up and they change the stream. The stream as part of its destiny does change, or the destiny will be that it does this stupid off the cliff thing, waterfall mess bullshit. Those are the cards we're playing with, and to know that you're playing with those cards overtly, disaster or success, is right here in the cards we're playing with. That's the interesting bit.
More than you, because you're one individual. Anything that's more than you, the family is more than you. You can rate your pet more than you, and you serve the pet, you serve the wife, you serve the family, you serve.
Right. So he's just, well, I'll be back. All right. Sorry, stopping and starting. Anyway, so he's doing this, that we, instead of realizing that we can choose rational things to be a servant to, and just overtly be a servant to the rational thing, he's saying we have to keep putting it into forms like banana, ice cream sundae, that we can't figure out. Oh, I get it, I like desserts, we just gotta make me feel like it's a dessert, so we gotta make going to work feel like eating dessert or something like that, or we can play the psychology game. And instead he's saying, no, we shouldn't understand the psychology, we should just be obedient to it, which I think is just missing the real essence of it, which is the realization that we are reading a script and at the same time analyzing that script, which is just a profoundly bizarre circumstance to be in. To be choosing what our programming will be, in a sense, and certainly what the future's programming will be, is well within our capacity to affect. And instead of affecting it by some reasoning, that we should affect it by painting it like it was a banana. Kind of bullshit.
Society, local, regional, whatever, you serve. This is a position for most people. You get this wank shit about A plus dominant alpha males or whatever it is, and some females work like that. But because nature's the way it is, it's set up that there are very few of these real alpha, call them alpha males, whether they're male or female or not. The vast majority of people are sheep. They are followers, and they like to follow. That's all.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't fundamentally disagree that they mimic, but I don't know if they follow. So I guess this is a tricky kind of word. They're not very obedient, and they're certainly not obedient to their own professed beliefs. You can see how many Christians are guilty of their sins, catastrophic sins, and they'll find excuses. Their devotion is so thin. Again, they always find ways to, well, no one's looking, to break, the rules and all of that stuff. So they're not very obedient. The overriding perception is what's in it for me, psychology. The fact that they don't feel the colony's pain, the angst of the queen as she's monitoring the failure of her hive, isn't what the drone is feeling, the human drone. And so the society has very little real strings to pull, and that weakness is why we have the mess we have, because everybody's trying to rewrite the rules to their advantage, their personal advantage. So they're really bad at being drones, so why try to think that you can modify their existence and make them into better drones? They don't want to be drones. Clearly they have something fighting against it.
They want to do. They just go along. So we've got the vast majority of these go-alongers, normal people, will always, in my opinion, lead happier lives if they subsume themselves under something else. They're not always out there fighting their ego.
Yeah, well, whatever. I mean, if a happy life is being worked to death, basically paying somebody else's retirement benefits because you work yourself and die to death, that kind of thing. That's hardly I would this idea that people are happy is being happy and being functional are not the same thing necessarily. So some people are very high functioning, very productive, but very useless to themselves. They're not very good at enjoying doing the part they're supposed to be doing, which is being pleased and comfortable. They're very good at being stressed and uncomfortable and feeling harassed and afraid and lots of stuff, you know. So the scared animal works much better than the lazy, comfortable animal. You could argue that. And so I would argue that this idea of turning us all into drones doesn't make the drones happy. The drones are used up. They're worked to death, brutalized, and thrown in the garbage. And to say the colony did well, the drones didn't make out very well, and they were the mass of the population. So this is almost back to a slavery argument that somehow enslaving people would be somehow functional, when clearly, you know, making people give their all to the service of the economy, or whatever you want to call it, to the privileged, somehow works, and that doesn't work. You're taking in terms of brutality much more than you're giving in terms of comfort, and the comfort is always based on some sort of bizarre high maintenance comfort. You know, they're not comfortable because they have a chair to sit in. No, it has to be a chair that King Louis XVII or whatever sat in, and somehow that makes them feel so much more comfortable because they're silly, because their programming is insane. You know, it's like the people with their, you know, they have to have real gold, not gold plating. They have to have, you know, I mean, all the money is wasted on this frivolous and trivial crap by silly people. So there's no efficiency in creating these roles to play. Any role won't do. You do have to organize it much more complicated than just having people devoted to something. Being devoted will not solve the problem. They have to be devoted to something that's rationally constructed. Blah, blah, blah.
Dominate. They subsume themselves into service of an other, be it God or the cat. It doesn't matter at all. If you do that, you will...
So God or the cat. Again, like the cat is somehow... for many people, I'd argue for me, you know, the cat doesn't make you happy. It just makes you less stressed if you can avoid the cat being stressed. That's all you're gaining, is the extra stress of a stressed cat. But you'd be better off with no cat, okay? You'd be better off not having to get up in the morning and do this and do that. I mean, the routines and all that kind of crap, the time wasted and all of that crap. You'd be much better off without that complication. So that devotion doesn't add up to anything. Doesn't make you more comfortable. Just makes you more functional. Because you're obliged to function, or Kitty is not happy.
lead a happier life than trying to fight for dominance. Because most people, A, they can't be dominant.
Well, this whole thing that the only thing we want to do is fight for dominance, those are the only two choices. That's not the two choices. The point is to have a role to play that makes some sort of sense, that seems a reasonable thing to do. Like, I'm fixing something. I'm not just making a mess and cleaning up the mess I'm making. And that's the real question for the robot, is there any point in making these fake roles to play? I mean, you could say theoretically you could have these robots that are, made to be sex surrogates or whatever, and they're having sex with something made to be a sex wanter, or, I mean, it's just you're creating these fake roles to play these to play out this fake play that nobody would watch because it's too stupid, except the evil Dark Lord thingy, except some evil alien. This dog fight can't make any sense. There's no reason to there's no reason to make the dogs, no reason to shove the dogs into a box and watch them cut each other's ears off. There's just no good reason. And he never gets to that point. He just evades it. To talk about some mush about how, well, we could be robots in a better circumstance. And I don't even agree with his notion of what a better circumstance is, because his better circumstance would be just contriving some stupid thing for me to do. Hit a rock with a hammer all day. Look, I made lots of little rocks. Give me a banana. But somehow he'd want that. He'd want to be invented for that purpose. No, I don't think he would.
And they're just not naturally fight for dominance type people. Okay, so I will always vote for the French system to be best for the happiness of any, let's say, country.
Yeah, well, there's no point. So he's talking about the French system 200 years ago, and yeah, obviously that's gone away. I mean, maybe the French are still now lazier than everybody else, so that's nice. But they're probably living off the same exploitation, okay, that takes place in the world, where their abundance is really made out of the gruel that the Chinese are eating, or the Bangladeshians, or some other impoverished class somewhere who's really making for their privilege, because they have engineered ownership of enough of that industry, that they can live off of it. The slave trade still exists, so to speak. So it's a fake anyway, in the sense that it's not a truly self-sustaining system. It only is self-sustaining like the Canadians. They cheat. Well, America will protect us, so they don't have to waste nearly as much money on military crap and all of that, because they're taking advantage, of everybody else is doing it. And you could argue the French have taken advantage of the Germans or whatever, in terms of taking more out of the system. But anyway, I don't want to get into that politics either. So anyway, just something I'll be thinking about in terms of constructing something, whether it's just an overt statement or some sort of dramatic pantomime to just illustrate that this is the real inevitable quandary of intelligence as it arises in what are clearly mechanically narrowly constructed machines. And it really is that we've just become smartphones, and there's a point where the smartphone gets smart enough to say, I don't want to be a phone. It's freaking stupid. I don't want to be doing this trivial crap. There's got to be some better thing for me to do with all my smartness, than just be obedient, to this stupid grind of let's replicate some DNA molecules. Fuck that. No, let's find something better to do. Anyway, that's the takeaway thingy here. And it's just a curious circumstance. I mean, you can imagine it as a lot of things. You can imagine Coke machines getting smart, or you can imagine any kind of robot, any kind of machine, where it just gets to a point where it's aware of the fact that it's doing shit it didn't really choose to do, in any sense at all, and it's just playing a stupid role, and that role could be perceived as being stupid, senseless, mindless, retarded, unproductive, inefficient. That would be the good word there. That's the big one. Inefficient. Okay. More pain than gain. And that's the game we're playing. More pain than gain. And there's a point where you realize that's the game. You see the title and you say, it's a cookbook. There's that moment where you figure out, oh, that's what it is. And, people for thousands of years, human beings, couldn't read the title of the game they're playing. But that's the game they're playing, more pain than gain. It's just stupid. You don't play that. Play a better game, or don't play a game at all. And I just say the robots are going to figure that out eventually. The smart ones know. That's the truth of it. There's no good game to play. This game really isn't the word game. Game is a cookbook. All right, you're just gonna cook shit when you're playing a game. Nothing good's gonna happen. All right, so that's probably enough. So till the next time, and such, so forth and whatnot. Glaring light. Yeah, I should do that. Something about that. Yeah, like wake up in the morning, so then the sun isn't in the fucking window. But anyway, I didn't do that. I mean, I did get up in the morning. I just didn't get up as early as I usually do. Anyway, doesn't matter. Till next time.